Welcome back to Automate Office Work. I'm your host, Justin. Today's episode is episode 85, Live Group Chat, Legal Tech, Q3 2026. We've been getting this panel together every 3 months, and this is our fourth time meeting. We have a diverse panel of experts in the AI and legal technology space. Some of our people are the originals who've been getting together, and we have a couple of new people who are taking the place of a couple of people who weren't able to make it today. So you're in for a real treat to get the opinions and views of a wide variety of people who are approaching technology from all different angles, whether they are deep into the technology or they are more general users or they're thinking at it from other angles. I hope you enjoy. All right, so most of us have gotten together before. We meet every 3 months. We have a couple of new people who are standing in. We have a couple of people who couldn't join, so we've asked them to come in and kind of play the roles. I've brought you together because you are such a wide variety of experts. Legal tech is constantly changing, and often when you go to like conferences, there will be a panel of like 5 people. They can only talk like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes max, and it's an echo chamber. They all say the same thing. And then after like a half hour, maybe it's an hour long panel if you're lucky. After that, the panel breaks apart and you never hear from them again. So I wanted to improve this. I want to make this not an echo chamber. I want anybody who's free to share their opinion. And whenever you say anything, 2 other people will say, "That's not how I see it." So it's a lot of fun. It's okay to disagree because we're learning from each other. We all see different stuff, and we're coming together every 3 months. So there's follow up, right? What has changed? What are we actually using technology for? What have we accomplished? What do we want to accomplish in the next half year? This kind of stuff. Okay, I do want to start with some introductions, especially for the new people to get to know the standard people a little bit better, and for the new people, introduce yourselves. Let us know, and also so you know, we do have a live audience on LinkedIn, so there's a lot of people getting benefit from this. I'm planning on to chat between a half hour and an hour. Depends on how we're all feeling, right? When we decide like, hey, we're kind of done talking with each other, let's bring on the audience. And then also I'll share the link with them and have them come on. If any of you need to drop off, that's fine. And then we can stay on with the live audience for up to an hour as well. In the past, we've gone between a half hour and an hour until, as long as we're feeling it, it's a fun time for everybody. All right, so let's get the new people to go first. Gurkaran and Mike. Who are you guys and how did you end up here?
Sure. Let's start with Mike.
Sure. So I met Justin over at the Legal Hops over about 2 years ago. It's a legal tech meetup in Amsterdam. And I was just finishing law school at the time. I did an international law LLM at the University of Sunderland. And before that, I was based in Dubai. And before that, I was in South Korea and Singapore, the UK, and I'm originally from the United States, so I've lived kind of all over the world. I love to travel. I'm a big traveler, explorer. I'm a dad of two boys, future professional baseball players, 9 and 10, and speed Rubik's cubers. I am an engineer. I've worked and built tech startups, over 45 mobile and web applications over the course of my 15 or so year career. And that's just a little bit about me. I like to figure out how to merge legal and tech. I've worked as a fractional chief legal and technology officer for a couple of startups. And basically, a lot of my work has been in the property sector. So, property planning in the United Kingdom, in Europe, and also in the US, and kind of figuring out how to use AI for that. I use AI to automate a lot of things. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm Mike DeShazer, and nice to meet all of you guys.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I did a YouTube, thanks, Justin, for mentioning it. So I did a YouTube channel called 100 Days of OpenClaw, which is basically like it was 100 days on the weekdays of me just kind of sitting in this office here talking about my exploration using automation for everything from prediction markets all the way up to life hacks for getting free McDonald's or whatnot. So using OpenClaw to just improve my life, and then also talking a little bit about Hermes, about the different AI models. I experimented with Kimi, Owl Alpha, obviously Codex from OpenAI, and all the different. I compared and contrasted and just talked about my journey. So that was a fun thing. I'm happy not to be doing 100 days of OpenClaw YouTube videos anymore. It would probably be a while before I do another one, because that was a traumatic experience. Don't ever do that if you've never done it. If you've done it, you know how making content for 100 days straight is not like fun, and it distracts from a lot of your work. But it was overall an enriching experience, and I had a good time. Kind of.
All right. Welcome, Mike. Gurkaran.
Great.
How
Of
did you
course.
end up here?
Thank you, Justin. How did I end up here? Just 3 days back, I saw a post from Justin. I think Justin and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a while. There was a post. He's looking for an average lawyer. I thought, oh, that's me. That's really me, an average lawyer he's looking for. And that's how I messaged him and ended up coming here. A little bit background about me. I am a corporate M&A lawyer based out of New Delhi, India. I have about 10 years of experience, out of which about 7 years I was working with the big law in India, a tier one law firm in the corporate M&A team. And it's been about 3.5 years I've been running my own law firm in New Delhi, India. It's a small boutique setup specializing in corporate M&A. Being a lawyer, I mean, my intersection with legal tech comes. I'm very passionate and enthusiastic about technology and use of technology in a law firm. Since I've been in a big law, I know the technology stack they use, the expensive software they use, and the efficiency it brings to the law firm system. So I never thought that, I'll wait for the law firm to scale and then bring the technology in. From the day one itself, when I started as a single person on the day one of the boutique law firm, I made sure the tech was integrated already. I started in around 2022 when, the AI was just coming in. So I've seen the growth of AI in the legal tech very closely, because I very keenly read of what's exactly happening, because I want to make sure we are using the right AI stack for our law firm to make sure our operations are more efficient. And that's where the legal tech area interests me a lot. Personally, I am very active on LinkedIn. I write a lot on LinkedIn. Similar to Mike's 100-day thing, I've taken an Advent to do a 520-day thing. So basically, I'm decoding Indian Companies Act, one section per day. It's going to take me about 18 months if I do all weekdays, which I've successfully done around 26 days already. So yeah, I mean, that's my way of also, teaching. And I mean, if you see the posts are majorly decoding the sections with a practical nuance. So yeah, that's about me basically.
All right. Mike, the audience is asking for your last name. If you want to update your name on the video, or I guess we could just say it. His last name is DeShazer, DE''Shazer. All right, Srinidhi.
Hello, I'm an oldie here. I've done this a couple of times already, but I'm sure a lot of people don't remember me because I'm not that memorable, I guess. But my name my name is Srinidhi, and I am I used to call myself a legal tech startup founder, but I'm not necessarily doing like principal legal tech anymore. My entrepreneurship interest has now moved to legal compliance adjacent areas, specifically for industrial engineering companies. And that's been pretty exciting because you might not know this, Justin, but I studied material science engineering in my undergrad. So it's like a full circle coming together almost. The first product that I was built was in the vanilla contract review software space. And after exiting that, I took on a bigger challenge, and that's been going nice so far. I think it's interesting, and this is something that I would like to touch on in the in this panel later on, is I'm feeling more and more empowered by AI myself to do things without relying on too many support software developers to help me, which is so refreshing and which was not possible when I started off 18 months ago. So that's a new development on my side.
All right. And Nate.
Hi, Nate Kostelnik, like Trinity. I'm also, I think, one of the originals. I am here as kind of the average lawyer, lawyer in the U.S. I've done law firm. I've had an in-house role before. I tend to focus on contracts and experiment these days with AI, but definitely do not have the open claude stuff like that. That's a little bit beyond me. So I think I'm kind of the more intermediate beginner level with AI, but I recognize what it's doing, and I'm always interested to learn more. So that's why I'm here. Glad to meet everybody and see some familiar faces as well.
And Nate has to leave a little early. 30 minutes in, he has to leave. So this is why I especially invited Gurkaran to come on, because this is absolutely an essential role. We need people who are not techie to be able to be in these conversations, because yeah, as everybody is talking so technically in depth about technology, we have to remember that we're building for common people, that we have to be able to bring them along. So ideally they should be in the part of the conversation as well, so we can make sure to meet their needs. So welcome. And Emma.
Hey guys, my name's Emma Kelly. I'm an OG as well. My background, I'm a non-lawyer, but I've been in the legal industry for about 20 years at this point. I've worked in law firms, I've worked for vendors, I've been around the block a few times. Currently, I have a couple of different ventures. I have my consultancy, Quad K, where I work with early stage legal tech companies, at this point, mostly AI, working on their go-to-market efforts. And then I also have a startup, Twala Labs, where we're working on helping highly regulated industries get model confidence in what kind of models they're using within their products, and then trust within their actual products and systems and things like that. So we're in pre-MVP stage, which I'm pretty excited about. Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. So I kind of want to start out with how have we seen legal tech changing since we last met 3 months ago? I think we all agree legal and especially AI changes quite a bit. So how have we seen it changing our work and how we approach it lately? And I kind of want to make sure that Nate gets a chance since he has to leave soon.
Yeah, so one of the questions I had, and it sounds like Gurkaran, you can speak to this a little bit, is the rise of the AI native law firms, which I think are pretty fascinating. They have some really interesting models, and are really redesigning the way, at least I think about how contracts, for example, one of the areas, just kind of flow, and how teams are able to do that work with a different pricing model and a different delivery model too. So I'm interested in that. I mentioned it to Justin, and Justin says sometimes we're not supposed to say AI native anymore. That's already behind the time. So so I just think it's an interesting new model, and I'm curious to hear what other people think about it.
Is AI native? Is that, Justin, is it behind the times? Because I still use AI native all the time.
Well, I think the
So
idea.
there was a joke. There's a joke post yesterday that we're already going to the next marketing term.
Well, I was going to say, I think the point to beyond the jokey part is that at this point, if you're a law firm, you should be incorporating AI. And AI native is just to distinguish between a firm who's recently started and is all in and using AI for everything. But as firms get more mature technologically, theoretically, they should all be AI native, I think, is where it comes from. But I think it is mostly jokey, right? It's what's the latest marketing term? AI enabled,
first?
AI native, AI.
Yeah, what's
Absolutely,
the
I think I
next?
agree. AI native is just a terminology now because every firm will have to have AI, otherwise they'll be left behind because the efficiency which AI brings in, I mean, it's the size is magnificent. I mean, for a boutique law firm like ours, we genuinely, I think, had we been in a pre-AI world, our workforce would have been doubled right now. And as a boutique law firm, we are able to deliver the same with half of workforce. So that's one thing which makes AI very essential, and it saves a lot of cost for human resource, right? And secondly, I think the core question, what's happening in the last 3 months? I think AI has advanced, legal tech AI has advanced the last, like from at least my experience, because 6 months back we took a decision that since we work in Microsoft system, Copilot seems to be a really good option, and that we integrated Copilot in our systems. And the IT administrator was just asking me, okay, let's book in the yearly commitment, right? Because everything looks good right now. Somewhere in my mind, no, wait, not an yearly commitment. You don't know what's happening. And 3 months later, we are using Claude for legal right now. I mean, it's changing that fast. I'm so happy I did not make an yearly commitment. And I'm sure for the coming, I'm not going to make any early commitments in the coming months because it's changing so fast. This Claude for legal, the co-work feature is working very well for us right now.
So you're using just the Claude and Copilot, or using any specialized legal tech?
No. So, Nate, as I mentioned to you, I'm so enthusiastic. I read so much about it. I talk to my peers a lot, for the firms which have these Legoras and the Harveys. I have spoken them with a lot. And there was so much confusion in the market, at least from the Indian market, I can say. Somebody was putting up for Legora, some Jurisphere, some Harveys, and etc. I've had calls with them, but genuinely telling you, for now, we decided let's wait on, let's see how the market progresses. And we've been using these co-pilots and Claudes, and I think they're working very well for us. And from the very limited tech knowledge I understand, even the Harveys of the world are basically just I may be completely wrong. Please correct me. The Anthropic model is something which is predominantly used even by these leading tech providers. So I thought, why not? If you're using Claude for legal, if you are at the max plan and pay, getting all the services, if we are at par with them, then why not? And again, just since we're a boutique law firm, our size is small, so we can experiment in all of this right now.
I love it.
And Srinidhi and Mike are builders. Do you have any
Yeah,
comments?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty intrigued by whatever Gurkar are, because it is not an unknown thing. I think he was polite enough not to use the word rapper for the mega name legal tech products. But I actually respect rappers. I have nothing against them. Rappers can bring deep workflow integrations into the system that like a general purpose extremely powerful model cannot bring in. So I think that becomes a differentiator between a boutique where you can be extremely hands-on versus like an extremely like corporate large legal firm where you kind of want to have a lot of workflow items built in and integrated. Um, but I've always been kind of skeptical about how much legal, like this was like more than a year ago, I think, how much legal training or like fine tuning can actually happen here. And we're kind of seeing that right now, that the open source models are not open source, but like the uh, publicly available models are kind of powerful enough now to do so much that you want them to do.
Any thoughts from Mike on perhaps the need to be flexible?
The need to be flexible. Well, you got to stretch, you know.
Especially as we're getting older, yeah.
Yeah. Especially as we get older, you know. But legal tech is weird. I started out in legal tech about 2000 and I think it was 17, and what we were doing, I was working with a blockchain company, and before there was the term real world assets, we were trying to figure out how we could take legal templates, kind of like LegalZoom does, and allow non-lawyers to produce contracts. Now, I know how silly that might sound now, but basically, as I progressed, through my career, I've worked with so many different legal technology firms because I've freelanced so much just because I've lived, kind of all over, like I mentioned earlier. So I usually kind of live a remote lifestyle, but that gives me the opportunity to work with so many different firms. How a Korean firm works, is, I mean, miles away from how an American firm works, right? And which is miles away from how an Indian firm works, right? Which is completely separate from our, litigious culture that we have in the United States, right? And how our law firms function. I built a tool a long time ago in 2022, right before the new Chat GPT, or the popular Chat GPT, the three whatever came out in 2000. I think it came out in 2022. Is that right? Was that
Yeah.
2022 that that came out?
End of November.
End of November. Yeah. So I'd actually been on the OpenAI developer program for a while. So I'd been using it since 2021, their or 2020, like their early stuff. And I created this platform called Ask My Contract. And all Ask My Contract did was it allowed lawyers to ask questions to their contract and get pretty reliable answers back. And so you could take these huge contracts and put it in. And but lawyers, I found at the time, they were just not interested in it. Like there was very little interest. I think what we see now with a lot of the legal tech are really interesting tools. But at the same time, I think, yeah, there's a lot of room for innovation, and I think that it's one of those things right now where I really think when we have these conversations around legal tech, I, I guess I would love to see kind of the framing a little bit better. Like like there's so much to legal tech, right? So there's a lot of firms who are using it for intake, right? So bringing in clients, things like that, marketing. And then there's a whole group of people who are using it for contract review, right? And then there's a whole, group of people who are using it for their legal ops, right? There are people who are using it for e-discovery. There are people who are using it, and so it's almost like not even a space because there's so many different things that you can do with it. So I would love to kind of figure out like where are we kind of where are we, or are we kind of just looking at that broad spectrum?
Yeah, I think to your point, like Justin's business, for instance, is legal technology, right? Like he's automating a lot of the processes that need to be automated in-house. Doesn't necessarily need AI to do that, right? Like you can just do that on SharePoint, you could do that in other ways. I'm sure Justin could talk all day about it. So like that's a form of legal technology. I think
I have a podcast all about it.
a layup for you. But I think like in terms, I think a lot of times because of the having been in the industry for about 20 years at this point, we seem to be at this explosion because of AI. Like I have an e-discovery background, and every day I'm still amazed where before trying to get attorneys onto technology assisted review was like pulling teeth, right? And now attorneys are like, generative AI, let's do it. I love it. This is great. Um, so I think with AI, and then you see within it then not just within different functions in the firm. So to your point, like practice tools, right? Or like to Nate's point, like, hey, how do we use this for contract review? How do we do this to automate? Or like the business of law, like how do we do intake? Like how do we do our invoicing? How do we do our billing? Things like that. And then the Gurkhan's point, like the buy versus build, right? It's like you could, like a lot of people and firms are just like, I'm going to buy something because it's easier and they're going to help me with implementation. And and I'm going to be able to like justify that on cost. And with Gurkhan, it's like, no, I could do this with like, for our needs, we could do this with like a $200 a month, like Claude Pro subscription. So I think you're seeing a lot of different elements within here, and it's really exciting time because we haven't kind of seen this before. You know, in the same way, like laws had other technological developments. Like I think, you know, before every lawyer used to have like their own secretary because they didn't type, right? They weren't sending emails. They had people, they'd do shorthand or they'd write notes and somebody would type up their brief for them or send messages to the other side, right? And then we had word processing and then we had email and then all of these other technological advancements that have changed the practice and the business of law. So it's a very, very interesting time, I think.
I want to make sure we can get some last words from Nate before he has to leave in 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry I have to drop off. So many fun things to talk about. I shared in the chat here, and maybe Justin, if you want to share it elsewhere too, a post from Sona where she had an image of all of the legal tech tools that are out there. I think, Mike, to your point, just kind of the explosion and finding new ways to use AI. But it's overwhelming how many there are. And I think the graphic in Sona's post really captures that. I mean, it's just a flood of icons there. But I have to hop off. Thank you all for the discussion. If you have time, and maybe I can come back and catch the recording, I would love to hear, as kind of the average lawyer, do I need to use and learn how to use Claude Code to build something, or can I stick with CoWork or something like that? And then I otherwise would have loved to have heard Mike's story about free McDonald's, I think, in your intro. I think that would be something to hear about as well. So I wish I could stick around. Thanks for having me. Good to see everybody.
Bye, Nate.
All right. See you next time. Bye. Oh, and then there were 5. We're also missing Colin Levy today. He is one of our oldies as well. He is a general counsel of an established contract lifecycle management tool, abbreviated CLM in the legal tech world. He brings a flavor to this that he is more like the establishment, the person with infinite resources. And so somebody like a Serenity or a Mike, you guys are coming at him and you're like agile and able to take him down, right? You're able to pivot quickly and change. You don't need infinite resources. So there's this discussion as well. Is it huge amounts of resources that help at this, or is it the ability to be nimble and change? And yeah, what a great topic. Maybe I'll try to take on his persona and push back on you guys as you talk.
Yeah, I wanted to add something in there because we can also include Gurkaran in this because even though he's not in the legal tech startup builder kind of persona, he is still like out there with his boutique firm. And the point that I wanted to make was that yes, like, like AI is making boutiques efficient and like reduce costs and stuff like that. But what about like the business development or the top line growth? Because I would be curious to understand if like there are more of these boutiques coming up because of the advent of AI, and now like a lot of competition is increasing, just like the picture that Nate talked about, because now everyone can build software. Like every lawyer can become a legal tech founder if they wanted to. Even a non-lawyer can be a legal tech founder. So there's too much. So the legal tech space has been a red ocean for quite some time now. But I wanted to understand it more from your perspective, where relationship building is very key. It's a conservative field, so on and so forth, and how AI has changed the dynamics there.
Absolutely. That's a very, very nice question, Trinity. And why, when you were asking this question, and suddenly I can give an Indian context on this, on this behalf. So when I started, then there's a vast background to it. I'll not go there. When I started in 2022, boutique corporate M&A law firms were not that common. People leaving big law and starting their own setup was uncommon. I maybe, in the entire country, maybe one of 20 or 30 boutique law firms coming in a year, started by a ex-big law. But in 2024, 25, we've seen a flood of boutique law firms coming in, and many and tier one lawyers moving out and starting their own law firms. While AI, I don't think AI is the only reason there. There are a lot of different factors: the Indian economy and how the India is progressing, all of that factors. But now, as you were putting this question, I just realized what a coincidence. This journey is also coming along with AI. Maybe because, previously, if for example, equity partner had to go out, they typically go out with the team. They think, the cost for making a law firm. Maybe the team size could be a little lower. They could do a little more work. And maybe that's why more and more boutique law firms are coming in, at least in India in the last 2-3 years. There's been a flood of boutique law firms. So yeah, on that front, it could be a coincidence, but yeah, it could be a factor that AI has also pushed for more boutique law firms to come in the picture, and and not just very senior people, even the junior ones, maybe having some reliance on AI, are coming out and starting out their own law firms. Regarding your question in relation to use of AI in business development, where relationship is key, absolutely. Saving data, relationships are very important, but it all starts with data, right? Managing data, saving of data, managing relationships have become very easy with the AI, the AI notes, etc. All the tools coming in, the meetings are summarized, recorded. It reminds you of follow-ups. So that part has become very easy, where you would have either required secretary or a superpower for brain to do that. That has been automated, but the relationship part, of course, the human, that's human centric and that stays. But the secretarial part of making notes, follow-ups, remembering birthdays, sending out wishes, etc., all that has become more efficient than it was previously. Now, previously I may be having 5 different softwares to do a different thing. Now I can have AI agent to remember everything.
Yeah.
And when I had background discussions with Gurkaran before bringing him on today, we talked a little bit about he could bring on some extra perspective, that he's not just running a law firm that's in America or in Europe, because at least from what I see, a lot of the vendors are focused first on America, then Europe, and then like the rest of the world, if they think about the rest of the world at all, it's kind of an afterthought. So I thought it would be great to get Gurkaran to come on to talk about, like, are his needs being met? And maybe, like, because India is like 1/5 of the world population, it's a huge market. It's an open market. And in addition to that, a lot of vendors, they focus on like the big ticket clients, when there's a whole lot of like average people who have unmet like legal needs. They have needs for legal services. And a third one on top of that, Gurkaran, you have such diversity of language in India. I know that you have several national languages, and I think like there's no one single language that every person speaks. So how do you deal with that? And is the technology meeting your needs? And I guess you're now empowered just to go make your own solutions. You don't have to wait for the vendors. So yeah, I know that's a lot.
Sure.
Whatever you want to address.
Sure. I'll address that, and I love inputs from Srinidhi also on this. I'm sure she will also have her thoughts. Justin, to address the legal text focusing on Europe and US market, and then maybe coming to India, I'll give you a background, Justin. So the corporate legal market in India is still it's not as matured as it's already in US and Europe. The number of tier one or top tier corporate law firms, if I tell you, Justin, the tier one, which you call, could be hardly 8, 9, 10, or 11 top tier law firms in a country of 1.5 billion people. So you can understand that what is the magnitude of corporate legal work here, okay? And the top tier corporate, the language question does not come in the picture, because top tier corporate legal work happens only in English in India. It's not by official rules, but it's by I would say that it's become the standard language for official work to be done in India, in English language. So language is not a problem at the top tier where we're doing the corporate M&A work, etc. That said, we have huge population and there are various other issues. I mean, the law is a lot beyond corporate M&A work. There are litigations and so many other factors coming in. We are huge and the legal requirement is huge. And I would say personally, I do not read a lot about it. But yes, there are softwares coming in to address the other issues which are for volume. For example, legal notices, or for example, rent agreements, or the basic ones. How they are addressing the language challenge is something I've not, I may have limited thoughts about right now. I haven't given that thought much because at our level or the kind of work we do, we just have to focus on English language. So yes, but the scope is huge here. The market is huge here. There are vendors, but when you have 1.5 billion people, the vendors are not always sufficient. There's always scope for a lot of work to be done. Did I miss any point, or have I covered all the points, Justin?
I think you got
Any
them all.
of your question? Yeah. I would
I
love
wanted
to
to
have
add
thoughts from
something
Srinidhi
here.
also.
Yeah.
Please.
So I was what Justin described when he first started the question, a vendor like that wanted to focus on the Western market. So I'm not left India in the sense like I went to study in the US like many years ago, and at this time I've lived abroad for many, many years. And I had a certain perception of the Western markets versus Asian markets in terms of willingness to pay or ability to pay, or like the kind of ticket sizes that you can get. And I did not do a lot of due diligence earlier on. I was just like going through with perception. But actually, on what I am doing right now, the willingness to pay is actually at par, if not more, for certain niche areas. And I would have never ever thought that to be the case till I actually, went to India and like started talking to industries there, or even like the Asian clients that I speak to. So the world is definitely changing at a very fast pace. It is not like it used to be when I was a kid in the 90s, where like the Western markets dominated the whole world. There is a lot of opportunities in a lot of areas in the world, but it is also important to understand like I don't want to say cultural nuances because it doesn't have anything to do with the culture per se, but like, for example, like the population size and things like that. Because of that, there are certain products in India which are instant hits, which could never work in any other market around the world. For example, like 10-minute grocery delivery that my mom uses all the time, like things like this would not work anywhere. But like those are all multi-billion dollar not startups anymore, but like proper companies. And it only took them 2-3 years to get to a multi-billion dollar valuation. So these things are like super powers that economy that like India has. But one thing that I want to be cognizant about is, it is also a point where a country like India or a country like China can actually take advantage of the immense population that they have, which was actually a liability early on to have the resources or budget resources to serve billions of people. But this time, like, countries like this have an unfair advantage that they are producing data at a scale that no one else can produce around the world. And I think startups that are both like registered in India and also are serving Indian clients should definitely like be cognizant of how this data, this valuable data is being used and monetized. And I hope, those who are generating this data also benefit out of it. So, yeah.
I think Emma has some thoughts.
Oh, no. I don't really have that many thoughts. I think you're right.
Actually, Emma was the one who I had a discussion with Emma on this, and I was asking her, I was telling her my current clients are right now from Asia. Like, should I like put in more effort into the Western markets or not? And Emma was like, no, like focus on your Asian clients and like things will pan out by themselves. And that was one of the best advice that I received, because someone had to like push me out of that bath water. Because again, like I was educated in America, like I thought, this is where to be, because I worked hard to get to America in the first place. So I was like, like, what am I doing? But Emma's advice was the right one, and I think I am better off doing what I'm doing right now versus if I had done the other way around.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that the advice was helpful. But yeah, I think like I mean, I'm American, I'm based in DC. I have a very American bias, but I think in terms of tech and especially in terms of the law, right? We have the rest of the world, right? So I think it's pretty cool seeing all of these, like especially like legal tech innovations, or in general, Serenity, like you were saying, tech innovations that like 10-minute grocery delivery would never work in the US. I would love for that. I would use that in a second. I have two young children. Like I don't even want to get into like how groceries are a pain in my butt. But like these things, like these solutions, like culturally and just where we are, like would not work in the US versus India. But if somebody had said to themselves, like, oh, well, this wouldn't work in the US, I'm not going to start this company, then it's to your point, they wouldn't have started this multi-billion-dollar company. Or to your point, you're solving a problem that's like distinctly Asian and distinctly, and in some degrees, distinctly Indian. And there's a market for that. So like, why wouldn't you pursue that market? That's wild to me, instead of trying to get into this really crowded US or European legal technology market that I think, for better or worse, is ignoring this whole part of the rest of the world.
This is why I invited Emma on as one of the originals. I see her as, she's like the grounding, like a philosopher full of wisdom. Everybody
Oh,
else
thank
here
you.
is like chasing money. And then she's like,
I
well,
choose
why don't we?
money too. Hey.
Oh, okay. You're
I have
disenchanting me
bills
of
to
your view.
pay. I have bills to pay.
Yeah. But like Serenity commented, like it's a great big red ocean.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Everybody's competing for like these top dollar clients and ignoring like the bulk of humanity. Like instead of chasing like this pie, why don't we make the pie bigger? And like
But
there's lots of
Justin,
value to create still.
I also don't think that the impression that, the top dollar exists in those markets is actually even true, because at this point, like I've done business development on both sides, that is like US and rest of the world. And again, like you need to choose the right market, like the right niche, etc. Like the fundamentals don't go away. But I am actually able to charge pretty much the same or even more than I would have been able to charge an American client. Again, like it all depends on your niche and stuff like that. So I don't even think that notion holds true at this day.
Yeah, and I would say Serenity, especially because I do have an idea of your business, is that it is very focused on that like specific regulatory niche for India. But I think the way you're doing it, it's expandable within that sector,
Yeah,
right? So
that's
even
right.
though
Yeah.
you're starting off in that market, you're doing it a lot differently than a lot of other legal technology companies, right? Like you're not saying like, okay, I'm starting off in the US and then I'm gonna go try to like fit this into this culture. You're like, no, I'm gonna start it here. But because of what I'm doing, it's applicable across other industries. I just have to learn
Yeah.
the different regulatory, or the same industry, I should say. I just have to learn the different regulatory framework, and then I could still do this. But you don't have to at this point, right? Like, but for your growth plan, you could do that, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Something I wanted to bring up about that I think is interesting that's happening in legal tech right now is this idea of tokenomics, right?
Mhm.
Where we had this free ride before of tokens, and
Yeah.
now organizations are realizing, it's time to pay the piper, so to speak. That the free ride's over, that we're going to usage pricing. I find that development it's interesting to see people shocked by it, because it kind of seems like a logical, like,
Capitalism.
the hose wasn't going to be on forever. And I'm interested to see if this is going to affect people's usage of AI, or if people are just going to be smarter about it, or if we're going to start to see like more people using more locally hosted models versus these frontier labs that they need to pay inference cost on.
I
Even
could
I
see
was,
Mike saying something like local.
Mhm.
I could see Mike saying something like, let's build it local and use it on your
Yeah.
machine. Or I could see Gurkaran saying, like, why don't we go use the cheaper Chinese models that are
Yeah.
good enough?
Or
Yeah,
use
but
a
I'll let you guys go.
combination, right?
Yeah,
Like, anyway.
I mean, Gukran, were you gonna say something?
Please you start. I'll take it after you.
Okay. So tokenomics is really interesting. Interesting. And I've talked a lot about this topic. So for me, for example, I manage two organizations that run with AI-based tools that completely manage everything. And for those two, I don't pay anything for tokens. I don't, and this is highly complex. I use maybe 100. I can use up to 100 million tokens a day, which with OpenAI would be in the thousands of dollars per day, right? But I get better, I get more out of it. So when it comes to that whole thing, there's a lot of competition in the space. If you're just looking at Anthropic and you're just looking at OpenAI, I think the key is to get out of the box. They have the best marketing, etc. They're not the best models, and there are there are a lot of tools out there. So for example, I use and I can use and before everyone screams at me, so Alpha, right, which is it can go on process 15, 20, 30 minutes, and it's free, completely free right now, at least if it's been for the last month. And it is amazing. It does what Codex and Anthropic Claude will try to charge me hundreds of dollars to do. It will do it for free, and it will do it better, right? It'll double check its work, right? And so I think if there's anything, we talk about is there a bubble? There's definitely a bubble. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit, piggybacking on the tokenomics and more on the use case side, is one of the things, and maybe this is for later or maybe for a whole different discussion, that I see in the legal tech space on LinkedIn, because I scroll through LinkedIn, I see everything. I never see, and I made a few notes here. I never see people actually talking about licenses and permissions, right? Like when people come to law firms, that's one of the most important things that you're doing.
Oh, I hear that all the time, Mike. So maybe we talk to different people.
Oh, really? Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
do. No,
Oh,
the use of
disagreement.
AI for it,
Mhm.
right? So when so we have like this AI conversation about like tokenomics and how to use tokens, et cetera. But then we have separate legal conversations, right, about that, right? So
Oh, yeah, we
they're
get
separated.
governance.
Yeah,
You
but
got to
they're
have the
separated.
governance conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, but not only license and permissions, but dealing with disputes, negotiation. One of our good friends, he's building a startup for negotiating terms, and AI in that space, taxes, right? Especially for multinational corporations, you see people talking about it. At least, and if anyone can recommend, and also by the way, if you guys know people who are actually talking about using AI with specific use cases for like taxes, for corporations, for immigration and employment issues, right? Like these areas, customs and dealing with import export and multi country areas of like duties and things like that. Though I really feel that there's a gap in the legal tech space, at least on how it's marketed right now, between the client's benefit in these areas, license permission, dealing with disputes, negotiating deal terms, dealing with taxes, managing your tax situation obligations, immigration and employment with AI, right? And then talking about and then layering that into tokenomics. That conversation I think is something that it would be so interesting. But I think on one side we have lawyers, yes, talking about these areas. We have the tech vendor, the legal tech vendors who are out there trying to sell legal tech, like I was talking about earlier, the contract review, spell books of the world, the Harveys of the world, the Lagoras of the world. And I've seen, demos of all these guys, been at the conferences. I get all their newsletters and stuff like that. But what you don't really see are these specific use cases and how AI can really be used. And I think that is a gap in the conversation. So I don't really come on these
I
a
can
lot.
send you
I
a
just
few
wanted to just
companies
throw
who
that
do
out there if
immigration.
I can into the corporate law world of just like, guys,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's a few companies out there who do immigration I can think of off the top of my head in the US, focused on either immigration law firms or kind of a quasi B2C where like the consumer puts their information in and then they're connected with a lawyer, or they could see if it's like a good use case for them. So there's some people working on that. But I think to your point, like taxation's one, I think for sure there's a lot of room in there, especially since it's such like big business. A couple of the international tax attorneys I know use some of those names you mentioned because they work at big law firms, so that's kind of what they have to use. I think in terms of tax, a lot of that ends up being kind of on the fintech side, so looking at it from the accounting side versus the legal side. But yeah, so much room for growth. But I think, yeah, your point, like licensing and permissions, it's not sexy. Like information governance is not sexy. But something everyone needs to do. Yeah, Justin's nodding his head because I'm sure that's like the first conversation you have with people. You can't really use AI without good data governance. But yeah, especially in legal, right? With conflicts checks and things like that. Sorry, Gurkhan, you've been patiently waiting to speak, so I will shut up now.
No. Firstly, I'm so sorry. I have some lighting issue. I'm figuring out, so I'm off camera. Okay, I do want to share my thoughts on what Mike has said. Mike was mentioning that he is using some alternate tools which are for now for free. On tokenization, I think my question is free, but for how long? Maybe an year or two. Ultimately, I when this tokenization thing came out, and I did a good brainstorming for half an hour, 1 hour. What does the future of law firm look like? And tokenization, I think some way would be justified because I'm assuming as a layman that it actually, because it costs them, right? Every prompt I make costs them something. So ultimately they will have to come to tokenization and not just give a per seat fees, because it's costing them for every prompt I make. So I was thinking, how will it pan out later, when either my setup is bigger, or how will it pan out in a bigger law firm when, then how the costs will work out? Because let's say if I have a junior associate saying everything from good morning to good night and everything on their personal love life, discussing with the firm's AI, it's costing me, right? Because it's tokenization. I was thinking out, how will it pan out in a big setup? Will this be added in the cost of the team or the equity partner or the partner? How will it pan out in the law firm? And ultimately, it'll happen. It'll add to the, if my AI is saving me cost for resources, it'll add this way, right? It will ultimately come in the cost of the team, and then they will have to justify all the costs. So yes, I think judicious use of AI and the AI usage policy of the firms, then AI usage monitoring, all of this is the future which will come in the law firms. Because yes, it's ultimately it's all about maximizing the profits. Those are my thoughts. And on the alternative uses, I'm sure there are some free AIs, but ultimately everybody will come to the model where they have to, maybe tokenization or something, because they have to also make money, right? Those are my thoughts as layman. I don't know how the technology would work actually.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I think that's true. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I think that's the thing is like, how do you pass on this cost? Because yes, if it's saving you time, but it still costs you money to use it. So I think that is interesting. I think that's getting to like a lot of the way, especially law firms bill, right? Like, are they going to continue doing the billable hour? Because especially if you have to factor in those token costs, do you try to figure out like a flat fee situation? Do you go to value-based pricing? So I think there's definitely a lot of questions in there with that.
Yeah.
Not just from, sorry, I was not just from billing the client perspective, Emma.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
thinking the internal cost also.
Oh
Internal,
yeah.
I'm sure the how the
Well, you
law
have to
firm
figure out
structure
your
works
cost
is
to figure out what to charge, right? Like you have to make a profit.
no. That also, Emma, what I was talking about,
Mhm.
how does a big tier one law firm model works? It works because every equity partner has a cost and team allocated,
Yeah.
right? And they have to, so though, and they have to make 3x, 4x depending on firm policy. How does that work
Mhm.
out, right? So I was thinking from that perspective that even in the team's cost, this will become an important factor because
Yeah.
ultimately they have to justify the cost to the board, right? And this will become a really important factor. So it will become one of the KPIs for one of the top partners or the partners to check your team's
Oh,
AI judicious usage will become that. That's going to become maybe coming in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's going to be implemented in law
that's
firms because
interesting perspective. Yeah.
yes,
I
that's
hadn't
what I
thought
was
of it
talking
that
about.
way, from like a way for like looking like at the partner's cost KPI, and then
Yeah.
how do they determine their value with that? Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think one of the things is no law firm should be using like a Claude or ChatGPT, right? Because then your client data is going out into the cloud, right? So I do think that, it's best practice and responsible for any law firm with their client data to always host it locally, right? Like that's not even a question,
Correct.
right? And so, and I think in that regard, the co- the spend or the cost is upfront, right? You spend on your own infrastructure, your own data storage, your own processing, right? And then you get very much close to, not exactly, but you get almost a fixed cost at that point, right? When all your attorneys, your paralegals, et cetera, are using your internal system, right? And that's pretty straightforward these days to set up. And again, uh, uh, it is extraordinarily cost inefficient to use the third party data processing AI tools, right? Like that is extraordinarily expensive. Now we can get into more of those other areas, but I think that it won't really necessarily be bill per token because then you're really coming down to electricity costs. But that's like billing a client because it's going to be like the same as we worked 13 hours, we had to keep the lights on, right? It's baked in.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
that's
baked
interesting.
in.
Yeah.
Inference as overhead,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Mike, I
right?
mean,
Well, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think about it like as e-discovery, right? So when you charge for hosting before, you were charging, like you charge by the gigabyte, and before the cloud, you were paying like a hosting provider. So you're still paying the client that pass-through cost of that, like whatever it costs to host that data. Um, that's interesting. Like, so if you're self-hosting a model, yeah, it's overhead because you don't really have any inference, right? But if you're paying an API, you're paying a tool,
Yeah.
there is a
And you're
cost
and then
associated.
you're also sacrificing because, obviously the data, it's not safe, right? And you're breaking all kind of, because now it's leaving, wherever your country jurisdiction is, it's going to America, right? You got these, cross-border data issues. I mean, all that.
Mike, I would like to just from a layman perspective, since I understand tech as well as you.
Yeah.
So you're saying that in future, every law firm may be having their own AI infrastructure in-house, let's say similar to data server rooms today, correct? And they may be either developing their own upfront page or whatever you call it, or maybe taking an API from some outside tool, but the data will stay within the firm, and that will turn out to be a fixed cost rather than a token cost. Do I understand it correctly?
Partially. Now, look,
Okay.
there's no one size fit all solution, right? But
Mhm.
generally, you will still use outside models, but you
Mhm.
have to obviously protect your client data from that. So there,
Yes.
there is like a lot that can be gained from, for example, OpenAI Deep Research. Great tool,
Mhm.
right? Great,
Okay.
amazing, right? What it can do, the amount of documents, you're talking about hundreds of documents, thousands of documents that you might not even know exist, papers that you might not know exist, books that you might not know exist that it can do research. That's on the web. That kind of stuff, absolutely 100%, right? But you kind of have to segment it. So I think it's more, in my mind, more of like an 80-20 kind of split, where it's like 20% of things are done with external models, but you have an internal model that is the gatekeeper, right? And it things are passing various thresholds, right? Where you're ensuring that you're not leaking client data, right? When you're
Yeah.
looking up, licenses for a cryptocurrency client, right? Who's
Yeah.
having trouble in Greece, right? Like Binance right now is having big problem in Greece. They can't get their licenses. They're having to go to another EU country. Big deal right now. You got to do the research, but at the same time, you there has to be an AI there that can balance what goes out and
Yep.
where all of the research is done and all that stuff and what stays internal, right? And then just having strong models that are multi-step, that are agentic, that can deal with documents, that can update documents, that can do all the agentic fancy stuff, that the models are doing now. So I think that's kind of the segmentation, at least in my mind.
Interesting. So these giants, I'm thinking these giants like the legal techs right now, their next focus should be providing in-house, data solutions and setting up these data servers or data centers inside. Correct? Do I see that?
They're not, and that's the thing. I mean, I know there are firms out there that are doing. I've seen several of the firms. They generally tend to not be as good at marketing, right, as the other firms that are selling the cloud solutions. The reason I think partially is because there's less funding because it's not as scalable of a business, right? You install it once, there is a maintenance fee, but it ain't as good as tokens, right? Tokens are
Yeah.
forever. And also you're outsourcing that. Like if you're Harvey or whoever, you're outsourcing all that stuff. They said they're I think Harvey just announced that they're going to bring everything internal. So they're building their own AI systems and everything. So now trust me, bro, with your data, right? It was always trust me, bro, but now it's like people were complaining. So it's like trust me, bro, like just me, not me and all these other external, guys out there. But like I do think it's just a less sexy business. And so that's why we don't see it because it doesn't scale as much. It's a medium size to a small business. The maintenance and the provision of systems that just sit locally and that don't cost astronomical amounts, millions of dollars a year, because that's what these cloud providers want, right? They want to sell your firm on something. That's what their VCs require of them. They gotta sell you millions of dollars of tokens every year, right? And so they'll spend all the money on everything up front, right? That's the VC model, Silicon Valley. But then they need to spend the tokens. Now, what they're going to run into, though, the problem they're going to run into that's inevitable is the fact that, like, A, that's not smart. There's literally no way it can be safe going over to Harvey or anywhere else, right? Like, that's just not even possible. No matter how much they want to hash it up, crack it up, whatever they want to do with it, the data should be sitting in your firm, right? And it should be processed in your firm. And you should have that layer that maybe goes out to them. And because software as a service is dying, because you can build tools so incredibly quickly with the Fables of the world, right? And things like that. Like, I think they're great for building tools, right? Fable, right? Like I don't know if you've seen the versions of video games. One prompt make a perfect video game, right? Like Mario level, everything, the physics, everything working right. Versus, ChatGPT is going to take you 5 months of just back and forth prompting, right? With 5.5. So it's, fix this and it changed that, updates that. So with these new models that they're restricting now only to American citizens, right? And now, which means to no one because they're having trouble figuring that out, right? So Claude has barred that off, right? But meanwhile, Chinese models are open source. Some of them are even open weight, and they are as advanced as some of the fables. I've used Fable. I've used things like Owl Alpha, and I have to say with 100 million token context, which means, like more context than you'll ever need really for anything, right? Especially when it's constantly, it's truncating it's on its own, and it's digesting it. They're having dreams and stuff, and so it can break everything down. All of that, those models can be hosted locally, and there will be service providers who provide it. I think they're just not out there yet. And I think the bill will come due for the Harveys of the world because, and I could be wrong, because never underestimate the power of good marketing, right? Never underestimate it. And what they do and what they have is an amazing marketing engine. They are really good. So there are a lot of things out there that we use today that are suboptimal, and a lot of stuff, right? And it comes down to that. So but ultimately, if I'm a firm and I'm concerned about my clients and their benefit, right? I'm using things locally, and I think a lot of the firms are developing things in house, and they know they need to be doing that. And those are my thoughts. But I think there will always be some token spend, but I think it's going to be a lot less. And I think it's going to be more so on the research side of things.
Interesting.
I have released the URL for people to join us. So I put it in the comments on LinkedIn. So our live audience members, if they would like to come on, please feel free to come on. So to our panelists, you might see people come in. Feel free to welcome them, and they might start asking questions, and we'll see how many people we get.
I have to jump off,
Please continue.
unfortunately.
Oh, totally fine.
It was so great. Thank you, Justin, so much for setting this up. I look forward to it every time. It was so nice to meet you, Mike and Gurkhan, and Serenity. Always a pleasure. Thank you guys for an amazing conversation. Speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh. So yeah, as long as we want to keep going.
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with, Mike's layout of the situation, and that's something that I've been giving a lot of thought as well, of how all of us in this room, all over the world, everywhere, have in some way been affected pretty deeply by some kind of like marketing dollars out there, and using suboptimal stuff that we should have nothing to do with, but like we still have them in our lives. But it takes a lot of thought and like self-reflection, going and actually like going to places, like doing your own research, etc., to really come to this realization. And that's something that really scares me, is like even with like the recent big IPOs and stuff. And now in America, for example, those who have retirement accounts, and because I used to work there, I also have retirement accounts that now are going to have all these highly valued companies in it, because it is now also in the index. So like there's nothing that I have control over, and so even as a common person, you get sucked into whatever the big capitalist tells you is what's cooking for the day.
It's you're cooking for the day. we're on the menu, usually, and but
Mike, but I'm very, very insightful, good insights which you gave today. But I'm thinking, as a law firm founder with limited legal tech knowledge, it's very difficult to figure out these things ourselves, and our limited interaction with in-person legal tech are the pitch calls which we get from these legal tech, and our knowledge stays limited there. Of course, I mean, then how much time as a law firm partner we could go in depth and figure out these things is, I wonder. I'm so glad I joined this, and it has sparked this conversation in my head. So of course I'll read about it, but had I not been on this call, it would have taken me years to figure this out, that how exactly it's working out. And maybe cloud-based solution would have been the only solution in my mind, and figuring out alternatives like that. So as a law firm partner, as layman, I think even we are not wrong in our position to not know all of this and be fooled by these marketing giants and whatever is happening, whatever we see on LinkedIn or the hype is all about. I think as a law firm, we just follow that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things that, I mean, we use the term law firm, right? And there's so many different types. What your practice is mostly commercial law?
Corporate M&A, general corporate. Yeah.
Okay, M&A. Okay, and I think, I can't. It really depends on what your practice is. So for M&A, I've worked a little bit in the space, right? And a lot of it's due diligence, right? And a lot. Are you guys using AI for due diligence or?
Yes. It's so a majority of our practice is contracts, transaction documents, due diligence, and a little bit of corporate secretarial work as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that have you tried a tool called Obsidian?
No,
It's like
I
a note-taking
haven't.
app.
Say what? Yeah.
It's like a note-taking app.
Yeah, Obsidian. Yeah. It's a note-taking app. Yeah. And when you connect it to agents, there's some really cool things that can happen. So that's one area I would say that you might look at that you might find fascinating.
Interesting. We have this. I'm not sure if Srinidhi, you've seen about it. There's a device in India becoming famous by the name of Neo Sapien. They also appeared in the Shark Tank. So it's a AI powered locket. You wear it, you switch it on. It takes notes for you automatically, and then it comes into your app and it gives you summary. It gives you whole transcript of any conversation you have. So let's say, I mean, the privacy concerns are something different. I don't want to get in there. But for example, if I was wearing it all day and it was switched on, and so whosoever I talk to, it automatically would make notes, make my calendar invites, give me follow-up reminders, etc. So it looks like you're talking about something similar, like some note-taking app, right?
Well, it's a little different. So what it does is it creates a graph of relationships between all of the things that you're working on, but you can also host it completely locally, right? And you can then connect that into a local AI model, right? And then you can bring
Okay.
in transcripts. As you do those transcripts, you can bring those into Obsidian, right? And then it basically maps, because I think on your side, when it comes to M&A, like I mean, for everything, but I'm specifically thinking about like dealing with corporate clients who are merging or acquiring businesses, and there are so many areas, right? Their vendors, their customers, their liabilities, their, revenue stream, their growth, their HR,
Yeah.
right? And so taking that and then mapping it out into a graph format versus just kind of like more of like a SQL based kind of like, like a table like this, that you can miss a lot of stuff, but you can also import that like spreadsheets and stuff into it. And then you can see the relationships between all of these different things. But then when you take for example, a local AI based model and connect it into that knowledge base, you can really get a lot of value, right? So that's why I mentioned that particular tool. And then when you connect it to, for example, something like either an OpenClaw or an Hermes kind of is a self-learning, right? You connect that to your local AI. So you just get a separate server that you host, a Linux-based server, cheap, but very powerful GPUs with at least 64 gigs of RAM. But more if you can. You're investing about $5,000 US. If you get the box, you have that. You can take a lot of your data, load it in through Obsidian, have an Hermes model sitting on top of on that local server, or OpenClaw that's agentic that can then basically work across your knowledge base to enhance your overall so this is more so for productivity, but then again, not just for productivity, for anticipation of needs. I think anticipation for clients is one of the most important things, being able to anticipate what they want, right? and then be able to, kind of like when I mentioned earlier, I was talking about licenses and permissions, dealing with disputes. A lot of it is just keeping that all in a knowledge graph and then being able to work through it. So I want to be able to produce this. When you create an end document or an end agreement or something, you can load that up in there, have your agent be able to grab that and reference it in the future when you do a similar transaction. When you have an associate who's working on a similar transaction, and basically with OpenClaw, also you can, permission it off, right? Because a lot of it, I think, is all about what permission various people have access to, right? And being able to make sure that, depending on the level they are within the organization or how long they've been with the organization or whatever your information management system protocol governance, requires, making sure that all the people across that huge knowledge base have access to the right pieces and not just Harvey. No, sorry. and I'm sorry. Yeah, but yeah. That's how I would start with setting it up. That would be my recommendation.
Awesome. Thank you. I've made notes.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing's transcribed, so you can just take that, put that into an AI, and then say how to walk me through how to do that.
Yeah.
Automate Mike. I feel like we just created a really good, long-lasting friendship on this podcast. I think the two of you guys just connected really strongly. You guys are going to be like lifelong friends. So I'm proud that I was like the matchmaker here. You're welcome.
Well, me and Justin have had some quite intimate experiences.
Hey.
Yeah. No, Justin's been just such a great friend here in the Netherlands, and another American in the Netherlands just helped me figure out how to navigate and learn over the last couple of years. And Justin, I really appreciate everything, and also appreciate you inviting me on here as well.
I thought you'd be the perfect person to fit this role. The person who was techie first, and then you made the jump to law school. Like, holy cow! Like already, studying computers, it's got to be so hard and a big commitment. And then you're like, I'm going to pivot to law. I'm going to do both. It's just it's a rare mindset to find people like you.
Well, even rare to find people like you, Justin, and it's really cool, and I like the format of what you put together. It's really well done, really awesome.
Yeah, technology is incredible. We're able to not only can you divide people and create riots and destroy democracy, you can also bring people together. And thank you, LinkedIn.
Right on.
So where do you live in the Netherlands, Mike? I also used to live in the Netherlands not too long ago. Now I am in Malta, so still in the EU.
Okay, well, you fully understand why I'm there's no AC in any of the buildings in the Netherlands.
It's air conditioning.
I know. I'm so happy to have moved at the right time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's one thing.
I have a fan.
Yeah, no one has air conditioning in this country. It's like where are we?
Yeah, because that's because they never expected this to get so hot ever, and now it is.
Yeah. Now I see why so many, Dutch-based NGOs are all for preventing global warming. It's because there's no AC here, and it's very tough. It's very tough. But yeah, so I live outside of Amsterdam in Brokkele.
Okay, I've not heard of that place.
It's
I was
the
living
original
in
Brooklyn.
Purmerend. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. The Brooklyn in New York, which I've also lived in, is actually based off Brokkele, which is here, and of course New York City is based off. It used to be called New Amsterdam, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
right outside of Amsterdam.
That
is
I know
Brokkele.
because I lived in New York City. Yeah.
Okay, right on. We're in New York.
Manhattan. I lived both Midtown East and Midtown West.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, I mean, nothing fancy about it. It was just that I was in investment banking, so I had to work crazy hours, and so I didn't. So I decided to pay more money in rent versus just getting 4 hours of sleep per day because the commute from Brooklyn or somewhere like that.
Yeah. Wow. No, still fancy.
So you went from material science to finance.
Yes, I did. So I actually also worked in Singapore at a very prestigious research lab, which is associated with the Singaporean government called ASTAR for a few months as a nanomaterials researcher. But coincidentally, I never professionally, in the sense, like worked as like a industrial engineer in an industry. My first real job was in Goldman in their equity research division. And so I spent a lot of years in finance. And then once I jumped into entrepreneurship, it seems to have come a full circle because now I'm working with, steel plants, mining operations and all of that to help engineers with their compliance needs and the documents that they need to submit to the government. So it's interesting.
What a bunch of smart people on this call. Excluding myself, of course.
No, you're the smartest one. Everyone loves you, Justin.
Oh, thank you.
Justin and I never met
You
in the
can-
Netherlands when I was there. He, I don't know what happened. He did invite me to the event that you mentioned, hops, legal hops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a pretty
But I
cool
never showed
event.
up.
That's how it is for everyone. That's how it's been for me lately. It's just like, oh yeah, I gotta go, and then yeah. But I'm glad that I went. And I've been maybe 6 or 7 times, maybe, but always good to see Justin over there. And how's it going these days at Legal Hops, Justin? You're still in tune.
Yeah. We're doing a boat party in Amsterdam on Tuesday night.
Right on. Right on.
The maximum was 60 people if you were able to get a ticket, but it was announced in our LinkedIn group, and within 1 hour, all the free tickets were snapped up.
Wow.
I hope the boat has AC.
Nope. I remember last year it was so hot on the water.
Oh my gosh. Oh well, people here are used to it. So I think if you've been here for a few
But
years,
aren't they really used to it though?
I don't know.
It's
It's a
40
lot more.
degrees Celsius, right?
Well, that's the thing. So I lived in Dubai
40.
before here, and it would go.
Yeah.
We get to 50, but it doesn't feel as hot as
Yeah,
here.
because
Yeah,
you're
you're
in
inside with air conditioning.
Yeah.
That's right. Air conditioning. It changes everything. It changes everything. Yeah.
Yeah, Malta's
Are there any
nice.
other
It's
topics that we want to make sure that we get? I'm thinking, like, if we want to talk about what are our goals? Like, the year is already halfway over. What are we trying to accomplish by the end of the year? I could see Serenity learning like a whole other area. I could see
yeah,
Mike going and
I
learning
do
some
so
more
many
agents.
things. Yeah. I'm always so chaotic that way. Like I want to do everything and I want to do everything right now. No patience for anything. I moved 2 countries in 2 years. That is crazy now that I think about it in hindsight.
Do a
Good
couple
life.
more.
Life of adventure.
Yeah, I was telling the guys before we went live, I was talking about you, Serenity, and I said, Serenity is from India, and every single time that we have a call, she's in a different country.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah. So I've had some success. So I don't focus so much on AI. I think that's kind
Oh,
of why
but
I have this call is to allow everybody to discuss AI.
yeah.
But I focus on the easy, boring stuff, and I've actually found that there's quite the niche in here. Um, there's all kinds of companies in all different stages, but I've found one of the largest companies in the world has been interested in my services because they are not allowed to use AI because of security concerns. So there are certain industries like banking, aviation, for example, where any amount of risk is not tolerable at all. So yeah, I approached them or they approached me and they said like you're standing out because everybody else has AI like in their name. And they said you're the only person we can actually use. So I guess my approach is that there's space for all of us, right? There's people who want to, like, I'm sure people in the audience that are listening to this, there's beginners, there are law school students who are thinking, how do I break into this, how can I compete against these people? And I guess the message is there's a place for everybody. We all have different experiences. Like we were talking about, Srinity said at first she was focusing on the big like Western companies, and then she realized, wait, there's a whole other world. And Srinity is in a much better position to be able to approach those people, right? She knows the culture, she knows how work is done. Like Mike was talking, work is done in a completely different way all around the world. So you might not have just a big, strong player with infinite resources that can actually win. It might be the person who knows the people, who knows how to do the marketing.
Absolutely.
Not just the marketing, but also like this is something that I learned the hard way, is selecting your niche is so important to become a scalable business because there is only so much competition that you can put out there, or like, compete only so much when everyone else is kind of doing the same thing. Like the first thing that I was doing was AI contract review, which like, there were 10 new companies doing the same thing every month or like every week. It was the
Every
definition
day.
of red ocean. And um and then I realized that like no matter how much better your product is, it is like such a uphill battle trying to communicate, why you are better effectively to someone. It might not even be worth that effort, but if you can do something like you are doing, Justin, that is so different from the rest of the market, you will kind of stand out immediately. And I'm sure like you do a good job whenever you have to deliver to the client, and so the word just spreads around. And actually last year when I was at Legal Tech, there was a vendor, I'm forgetting the name of it. That was their pitch, that we don't use AI in our software. Like that was their only pitch. And like there were a lot of like law firms circling that booth because of that. But I also saw you gave a talk, or like did a seminar in the Legal Tech Week this year. What was that about?
Mhm. It was about how to begin, because there are so many people who they want to begin, but they don't know how. And I spoke at a legal tech conference in London. I think it was either last week or the week before. I think it was just last week. And yeah, the 17th. So that's a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
There were 6,000 people in attendance and 400
Wow.
speakers, and it's just overwhelming. And
Yeah.
so when I spoke, I addressed this issue that you come to these events and you just get overwhelmed. Most people then will go back to their desk on Monday morning. They sit down and they think, okay, now what? Where do I start? And so my message was start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. A lot of people, they think that, well, I need to go buy some $1 million thing. And my message was no, start with what you have. You already have a little bit of technology. You have a computer. You have people emailing you. What else do you have? Maybe you have SharePoint. You have some kind of Office 365. Maybe you have access to Claude or ChatGPT. Start using what you have and learn what you have. And it's kind of baby steps growing.
Yeah, that's pretty important message. But I know like legal tech talk is overwhelming, but the food was really good, at least last time. They even had the little Dutch pancakes, and I was around that stall. But I wanted to make a comment on Harvey that um, it might not just be Harvey's marketing, but also their clients who are in the purchasing department, or like the people who are making purchasing decisions. They probably think it is easier to just, like sign a contract with something everyone is talking about versus going and doing their due diligence and, finding the right gem and what if something goes wrong, like with like Harvey or something like that, like they can at least blame it on the hype, or like, everyone is using it. So like we also signed up for it. But what if something goes wrong with a small startup? Because one of my friends in India, he was with like an ACE technical team. Like one of the founders was a pretty big champion in the Kaggle competition and all of that. And he mentioned that with his product, the kind of feedback that enterprise customers were giving him is that we would rather use Salesforce just so we can save our behinds if someone senior asks us, why did you choose what you chose? So they were like, even though you are much better, like your product is much better, like we kind of need to make this decision because of that, which is pretty sad. Like a lot of good technology is not seeing the light of the day because of this.
Mm-hmm. It's the same with law firms, by the way. People go with the biggest law firm just because if something goes wrong, they can always say, hey, I went with the biggest one. You can't blame me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all nodding our heads. For those who are listening to audio only, everybody is shaking their heads in agreement. Yep.
No, as a boutique law firm, I would definitely agree to that, Justin.
But
Mike, do you
AI
have
is
any
supposed to
solution to
change
this?
this. Yeah, AI is supposed to democratize the power.
Does AI
How
level
how
it?
do we get
Yeah.
there?
Absolutely, but the point, I mean, what Justin said was that the client, the legal head, the GC is answerable to those maybe C-suite, and they're answerable to the board, and they're answerable to the shareholders. So they just say, okay, we went with the tier one law firm, right? It's irrespective of the fact that the tier one was using AI or not, or the boutique uses AI. So that's why they selected that. That I think that I learned very long ago.
Yeah. But this was an advice that has worked well for me though. So I don't know, Justin and Mike, if you know, so in India, like there are a lot of like entrance exams that you need to write to get into college, and it's like millions and millions of kids writing it, and like 1 or 2% would get seats in these like prestigious government colleges and stuff. So when I was writing those exams and I got a seat in one of the National Institute of Technologies, my father was like, take this and prioritize the brand name over something else, like like studying something else somewhere else. And I didn't get that advice then. I thought I was making the wrong decision. But since I kept prioritizing that, like even when I went for my MBA, I was fortunate enough to get accepted into Cornell and stuff. So I always prioritize brand names, and it is paying me off now. Like I'm getting the dividends now because of that. And I think it is just like human psychology that like people are willing to trust you more if they see something on
Correct.
your resume or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mike
I
and
feel
I
the
had a
difference.
conversation about this.
I, I feel that, personally also even as a boutique law firm founder, a lot of trust already comes when we tell that, where I have worked before, that comes in our favor. So again, it's human psychology.
Mhm.
Yeah.
AI can't do anything about human psychology. What do we do about that?
Yeah.
Take care of
Great.
the
I think,
humans. Just love them.
yeah, I think I'll drop off, guys. I need to go somewhere. It's Friday night here. So
All right.
all right. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Justin, for having me here. Srinidhi, Mike, lovely knowing you and all the others. I look
Yeah.
forward to
All
staying
right.
in touch with all of you. Okay.
Keep in
Bye-bye.
touch.
All right, I
Bye.
gotta drop
Yes.
as well.
Bye-bye.
Good seeing you guys. All right.
All
No, so we
right.
should all drop off
Okay.
then.
Okay,
It's
well,
a great time. Thanks,
all
guys.
right.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
And that's a wrap on the legal Tech group chat for Q3 of 2026. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Had a great time as well as our panelists did. And I hope everybody gets benefit from this. If you would like to support my work, you can always, if you choose to do so, you can find a donation page at buymeacoffee.com/automate-office. That's buymeacoffee.com/automate-office. My name is Justin Turman with the Automate Office Work podcast. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Turman, Turman. Happy to host and bring on further discussions that would help you. And so please feel free to reach out to me. And I wish you on your automating journey, happy automating.